Hello and welcome back to yet another live episode of Green and White, brought to you by Argyle Life. Joe Bell, as always, nice and attentive there, looking away at his TV. The online forums will not like that, Joe.
I'm not hosting, so I don't have to be professional tonight. It's fine.
Okay, good. Well, if people expect professionalism from me, they will be thoroughly disappointed. So much so that I will hold my hands up and say I didn't even watch the game yesterday. So this is going to be fun. I'm hoping that you three can fill me in. I have watched the highlights, but if they were the highlights, God, I'm glad I missed the lowlights. Joining me tonight, already spoken, Joe Bell. How's things?
Very good. Sacked after my Ryder Cup performance, clearly. Relegated to just being a panelist. So
the quicker we get you out of the hot seat, the better, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Looking forward to this. Yeah, it should be fun.
Graham Clark, how's things?
Could be better. Fearful of Thursday, I must admit, and what that might mean if we don't get a win or at least a result. But disappointed. But we were done by the better team, physical team. Knew all the dark arts, played it masterfully, I would say.
Yeah, we'll come back to you for the full match run through in just a minute. And delighted to be joined, pod debut. I see that you've actually done the rounds of the pods. I just noticed after asking you on, seems to be a common theme of Argyle Life that we get there just too late. James Greenacre, how's things?
Yeah, good. Glad to be here. I've probably had a better weekend than the three of you, to be fair. So yeah, it's like Graham said, looking ahead to Thursday will be an interesting one, I think, after the weekend. But yeah, at the moment I'm just going to try and bask in three points on the road, and then we'll put it to bed and on to the next.
For the benefit of people who don't know who you are, I can imagine there are quite a few people that don't follow the commercial dealings of Purifying Office Club. Do you want to just give people a run through of who you are and why you support Wimbledon as well?
Yeah, sure thing. So I worked for Argyle for about 18 years. So I joined them back in 2005, working in the hospitality space. My role evolved post-admin into the commercial side of the organisation, where I helped grow the revenue streams. And then I stepped away just after we joined, and we came back into the championship. So I think Blackburn at home was my last game, September 2023. I had a brief period at Theatre Royal Plymouth as the Director of External Affairs. And then I'm currently now the Commercial Director for Plymouth Albion. I also sit on the board of the Devon County FA, so football is still well and truly rooted in my blood. And then as for the Wimbledon connection, I was born in Guildford, moved down to Plymouth as a kid. First ever game was Man United against Wimbledon at Selhurst Park, opening day of the season. David Beckham, halfway line. I think most people have seen that goal countless times. And from there on, I've been hooked. Probably fell out of love with football a bit during my teens, but for the last 20 odd years or so, I've been to more Argyle games than I can possibly count as an employee. Outnumbered Wimbledon for a ridiculous ratio. And it's probably only been the last couple of years I've been able to wear my colours on my sleeve as openly as I now can.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so quite invested in both teams on Saturday. So it's sort of like a win-win, but also a lose-lose situation, I imagine.
It's absolutely a lose-lose when the two teams play each other. Absolutely, you can't. Saturday, to be fair, I'll correct that. Saturday was the first time I think I was able to genuinely enjoy it. But whilst I was working for the club, it was, every time we played it, even if it was a dead rubber in the league, it was still a horrible occasion. The less said about the visit to Wembley in 2016, the better, I think. But yeah, the amount of people that think it's win-win, and it's like, no, it's absolutely the opposite, I can assure you.
Yeah, there can't be many people that go to Wembley and watch their team win and then think about the loss of earnings that would have given them. A nice little pay rise, I can imagine, was on the horizon. But anyway, Graham, you want to give us the post-match run through? Obviously 2-1 defeat.
I don't really want to, but in the absence of Sam Down, I'll give you a shortened version. I have to say, I always worry when we lose the toss and kick the wrong way round during the game. So I think Wimbledon knew something about that and made us kick towards the Devonport first half. So that
Do we know when the last time we were turned around is?
No, I can't. I was trying to think before I made the comment, and I can't. I don't think it's happened this season for sure. I'm just so used to us kicking towards the Devonport end second half, but anyway, it didn't happen. And the early exchanges were fairly nondescript, and then in the 8th minute, Arsene won a rare midfield tackle, passed it to Mumba, who cut in, and he passed it to Ibrahim, who was on the halfway line and turned and slotted probably the ball of the season so far between, I think it was Bauer and Johnson, and Talai was onto it. And there was only ever going to be one outcome. And when is the last time we felt so confident one of our strikers was going to score? And it was never in doubt. And he slotted it away perfectly. And we thought, right, game on. And I thought, as Joe will inevitably point out, score first and you never lose. Well, it didn't happen. Then Wimbledon came back in the game. They had a number of balls into the box, which, let's say, Conor Hazard didn't display his talents at coming and collecting the ball. I think they exploited that weakness. Once he flashing across the 6-yard box. There was another occasion where it went up in the air, came out to the edge of the box in a weak punch. And it really, I think it unsettled our defence, that they didn't have full confidence in Connor's ability to control not only his 6-yard box, but come and collect. The one contentious moment in the first half, I think, was when Barley won the ball down the left-hand side, cut in and cut across and passed it across. He should have found Talai, he was better placed, but he found Joe Edwards. And Joe Edwards was about to shoot with his left foot, and I think it was Reeves took his foot away. And when you look back on the replay, and I have looked at it again, that was a penalty. But and this summed the referee up. He gave a free kick to Wimbledon. How on earth that could have happened was beyond me. But that was symptomatic of his performance on the day, which no doubt Joe might sort of touch upon later. Then the equaliser came in the 44th minute. I thought it was inevitable. It was coming. Wimbledon was swamping us. The one first and second contacts, and yet another mistake. Joe Edwards headed the ball. Instead of heading it out, he had it up in the air, and it was Hippolyte got hold of it, breezed past Joe and breezed past Lord McCabe, and whipped in the most fantastic ball. And this is where the physicality of Wimbledon showed, because Bugil, I don't know, how do you pronounce his name? Bugil, or is it Bugil?
I think it's about Bugil, yeah.
Bugil, who absolutely monstered Ross. He should never even got to the ball, but he was all over Ross and put a bullet header in it. And that's exactly what you want from a centre forward. I mean, it was impressive. And when I looked at Bugil's history, I mean, he's been a journeyman player all in the lower leagues, in non-league for most of his career. I was quite surprised because I've never really heard of him, but he actually gave Ross in particular a real going over. As somebody said, he got bullied, absolutely. And it's when you saw the dark arts that Wimbledon, every time there's a ball in there, the elbows up, nudging the back. And they did it all the time. The referee barely saw it, occasionally gave a free kick, but the more they did it, the more they got away with it, the more they imposed themselves on the game. And frankly, as somebody said, we got bullied. Half-time came. I think we had a chance when Arsene had a fairly weak header at the near post from McCabe's cross. And then second half, Wimbledon came out determined, and it wasn't a surprise when they scored. I think it was the 52nd minute. Hazard collected the ball, and normally he stands there and deliberates on what to do. This time he instantly rolled it out to Ibrahim, who was facing him with his back to the player who was closing in. As he turned round, he stumbled on the ball, and I think it was Reeves took it off him, crossed the ball, and was it Brown got ahead of Boateng to put it goalwards, and then somehow it went underneath Connor Hazard. In the end, I think it went through his legs, and that summed the game up really for me. It did change a bit when Pepperell and Patterson came on. I think it was more or less straight afterwards the goal, and I think Patterson gave us a bit of nous. Boateng went into the middle of midfield because McCabe did what he did against Peterborough and Wigan, sat too deep, and I sit on the halfway line in the Lyndhurst, and there was 40 yards between McCabe and our front line. That was just too big a gap, and Wimbledon just filled the gap, so thank you very much. So Patterson did make a bit of a difference, and I think Tom Cleverley said in his post-match enough to put him into consideration for the Exeter game. And then we had the best move of the match was we actually played a long ball up to Pepperell, who played it Sorinola to Talai to Ibrahim to Patterson, who then floated the ball far post, and Talai expertly controlled his volley, and the keeper Bishop actually made I thought it was a match-winning save in the end. And then after that, I think we had 7 second half corners, but we never looked like scoring from a corner. And can I just make a point on long throws? I say long throws. They're loopy, up in the air. Give it to the Wimbledon centre half to head away. It's pointless. Such can put them in low with a pace, but Wiredu can't. And all the time wasted of him, centre backs going out, Wiredu going out, and then we put 2 players back, and it looks as though that's a game on for a breakaway. And I think it nearly happened on one occasion. In fact, from a corner, I think it was, when Hackford got the better of Boateng and screwed it wide. But that was it in the end. I mean, in summary, I would say virtually every player was a 4 or 5 out of 10 performance, perhaps exception of Talai and Boateng. For me, Talai was man of the match. How Mitchell got it is beyond me. I couldn't understand that decision. We got out-muscled, and once Wimbledon got the lead, it never looked as though we were going to get back in the game. But ultimately, they were worthy winners, and the game was ruined by a whistle-happy referee who gave us very little. But that's no excuse. Wimbledon were the better side, and they won deservedly.
So we'll get on to Joe Bell's ref watch in a minute. But Graham, you said that was going to be short. You nearly rivaled Sam there. Nearly.
Did I? No, well, all right. I was clock watching, to be fair.
To be fair, that's one step better than Sam. Anything Graham's missed there, Joe?
Not really. I thought Wimbledon were everything that I want us to be week in, week out. That's going to be horrible to a lot of people to hear, because we've got elevated expectations of where we think we should be at this present moment as a club with everything that's gone on. But they're hard working, they're very structured, they've got a very, very good young manager in Johnny Jackson, and they've done a job for us. And I thought Ryan Johnson was the best player on the pitch, the centre-back for Wimbledon. I don't think he missed a header all game. I thought
he got done by Talai for the goal, though, didn't he?
Well, all right. Maybe he's not as great when the ball's at his feet, but when you're putting the ball in the air, he's pretty formidable. Yeah. But he showed our 3 centre backs what they should have been doing all afternoon. I think Graham's right to call up what happened with the first goal. I think the way Ross is bullied off the ball is alarming, frankly, given the general makeup of centre forwards in this league. Just a bad day at the office, and the bigger picture here is we're having far too many of them on our own patch. For the last 2 years, Aaron, we've sat on this podcast and we've said we're chalk and cheese home and away. Well, the axis of the earth has shifted, and we're now diabolical at home. I mean, the performances at home have been dreadful on the whole, really. I mean, Stockport, everything. The more and more you look back on the Stockport game, the more and more you realise that every ounce of luck was in our favour that afternoon. Our home
Since I've
performances.
switched, Joe, since I've switched from going to predominantly away games because I live miles away, we've been poor.
Yeah,
So I'm down here and I can actually go to home games. We've been poor there. So maybe it's just me. To make everything about me, which I like to do.
Tom cleverly sorted out the away form. I don't think any of us can crab with, bar the Cardiff away game and 70 minutes at Lincoln. I don't think any of us can really crab the away effort so far this season. But I mean, this home form needs addressing and quickly, because you can finish mid-table off the back of your home form. That's no problem. You can't finish mid-table solely on away form. That is dangerous ground. So in a way, I'm absolutely delighted the next 5 are away from home.
Yeah, potentially 6 if the international call-ups relocate there's a game, isn't there? One of them.
Bradford.
One of them. Six. Yeah,
Bradford, yeah.
That's the one. James, it's very rare that we have, well, very rare in the fact that you are the first opposition fan on a match review pod. But purely from like a Wimbledon perspective, taking your Argyle tinted glasses off for a second, what do you make of the way that we played, both with the performance and like systematically?
I thought, I mean, up until the first like 20 minutes, I mean, I was dreading the rest. I thought Argyle were by far and away the better side. I thought they bossed opening 15-20, the first goal. I mean, I think Talai's a League One cheat code, if I'm being honest. And the ball that Ibrahim put him through on, you know, he's one of those strikers that you see him in the ball. If he's between the lines, you're backing him to score 9 times out of 10. I think we came back into it. I think we've got that huge advantage of, you know, having a steadier squad and certainly that consistency over the last couple of years. But I don't think Argyle really. It almost felt like they stepped off, and it felt really pedestrian. They weren't doing, you know, it was clear to see, like you said, you know, Johnson won every aerial ball that came in, every time it was pumped up. And I think it was before the equaliser. The guy sat next to me turned to me and said, like, you know, we're going to get something out of this. You know, and I think we all kind of realised that actually there wasn't too much threat until, and again, as Graham said, I think when Patterson came on, he probably got on the ball a bit more, tried shifting it a bit more from central out wide, but it felt like one of those games where I don't know whether, you know, it's whether how you communicate it out to the players, but to say, look, lads, stop throwing those aimless balls up top, because they're just going to win every single one. And for me, it felt again, it was a nervy final 20 minutes. But again, I can't recall, other than, I mean, Bishop made the outstanding save from Talai even to the second, about halfway through the second half, I think. Other than that, I can't really recall him having a lot to do. It felt very much, you know, looking at it purely from a Wimbledon point of view and looking at the opposition with the blinkers on, felt like we were playing a team in transition who didn't really know how they were going to try and carve us open, and didn't feel like they had any other style of play other than what we saw, which if I then take those blinkers off, would be a bit of an alarm bell for me moving forward.
Yeah. Just to read some full-time thoughts that we get in, and I stopped doing it for some reason, and Joe never does it, so I'll read them. We always ask for them after every game. Matty H says 30-yard chipped ball straight down the middle from Mitchell won't win us games. Midfield were bullied. Attacking set pieces are a waste of time. Cleverly running out of excuses now that we have an almost fully fit squad. Onto Thursday. I'm not going to repeat exactly what he said.
But we don't have an almost fully fit squad. We had 4 genuine first team players that were unavailable yesterday that would go straight into the best 11. So this argument that all of a sudden, just because a couple of players have come back, all of a sudden we've got this fully fit squad is nonsense. It isn't true.
Okay, I'm just reading what people say, but I agree with you. But yes, We'll get on to that, Joe. Ryan says Lawrence Allight FC, the rest of them wouldn't get a game at Bath City, of which Will Jenkins Davies scored a late penalty yesterday. So that's good for him. Steve Ramsey says we were bullied and wilted to them, looked like lost going forward, and dawdling in defence cost us the second goal. Michael Sultan says this is a really poor performance, playing towards the Devonport end first half is unusual, but having taken the lead, then we looked forlorn. The defence seems to lack confidence in getting the ball forward. They pass endlessly between each other, and a high press negates midfield. Adam says, surprised we're still getting big crowds, but they are slowly starting to dwindle slightly. Was it no? How many did we have yesterday?
16-3, I think it was.
Oh, I read that wrong because I read it as 13-6. So, okay, ignore me. Oh, still big. I'll delete that question. Brilliant. Dave Searle says boring, dull, lack of creativity, copy and paste home performances, more stupid, self-inflicted errors. Mid-table looks like our level. If anything is possible in a relegation fight, I don't know. Yeah. Dominic says static midfield, and Vince just says dreadful. We really only look like getting the goal twice, and they sat back all game and just let us set them up for their goals every time. So, yeah, Joe, it sounds like from the rants and raves that were in the multiple group chats that I am in, that we just really struggled to destroy their deep block, really. And it seems like some of the best teams at the top end of at League One at the moment are playing very defence-first football, having a lower possession in your Stevenages, your Bradfords, your Wimbledons. They're playing a bit Muslich ball. And we seem to struggle against that.
Yeah, but let's not. We've only been out of League One for 2 years here. Like, the paradox of League One hasn't shifted dramatically. These teams have been playing this way for X amount of years. League One has always been a league of teams. The teams that tend to do well are the teams that don't dominate the ball. They're the teams that soak up the pressure and get the counter attack going. Now, Wimbledon had more about them yesterday than that, in my opinion. I think the bigger issue with it all is I think we have got a young squad that, frankly, are struggling with the pressure of playing at home for Plymouth Argyle Football Club. And that is because of the expectations that have been put on them. Because of what we heard in the summer that, top six this and second place that and playoffs this, everyone's gone into the first game of the season assuming that after losing 17 players and bringing in 13, 14 or whatever the numbers were, all of a sudden we're going to hit the ground running, we're going to finish in the top six, everything's going to be great. That isn't how football works. This is a transition season, and the sooner people wake up and realise it, the sooner people will just let the result go in one ear and out the other, like I did yesterday. This shouldn't be a shock that a young squad are going to make individual mistakes in games. The second goal yesterday was Bradley Ibrahim taking a poor touch. That's what it came down to. It was a good ball out by Hazard. Ibrahim takes a poor touch. Wimbledon were alert to that opportunity, and they capitalised on it. That's all it's coming down to. We're not. So I think Tom cleverly alluded to it after the game. We're not being comfortably beaten by. We're not. Teams aren't just walking through us and dispatching us left, right, and centre. A lot of it comes down to individual moments in the game that we simply aren't winning. And that will change, because this young group will get more experience as the season goes on. And I guarantee that in the winter window, which, I hate, we will look to get experienced League One players in with whatever's left of the budget from the summer, because that's what this squad needs. Tom Cleverley has said that multiple times. So the fact of the matter is, right now, we are struggling to deal with playing at home, because away from home, on the whole, the last 4, 5, 6 games, the performances have been decent. That's not an issue. However, almost every game at home, there have been issues with the performance. Even Blackpool at home, we weren't exactly putting the bunting out after that performance, were we? So that's what it comes down to. And for Christ's sake, for people to start saying that lose on Thursday and serious questions have to be asked of Cleverley, give your heads a wobble. That should not be happening. Look, I know it's not great at the moment, but just face facts that we are a mid-table team until something drastically changes. And yes, we have to find a way, going back to your original point, Aaron, we have to find a way to beat these teams that don't want to dominate, or they also like to give up the ball. You know, a lot of our best performances have been when we've had less than 41% of the ball this season. There's a surprise for you. But when we dominate the ball and other teams sit off and wait to counter-attack against us, that's when we're struggling. So this is where Tom Cleverley and the coaching staff have to use the intellectual capital that they've all got to come up with a way to break these teams down. And that starts on Thursday night. But the main point it starts with is keeping the ball out of the bloody net. I would love one season. Right, League One season, we went to Cambridge after being beaten at home. We lost that unbeaten home run. We went to Cambridge the day that England got beat by France in the World Cup in Qatar. And Shuey parked the bus for 94 minutes. We had one attack on goal in the entire game. He got out of that with a 0-0. We never looked back. Across that December-January period, we went on that stupid unbeaten run all the way up to Sheffield Wednesday. I think that's what it's going to take. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that we should go to Exeter on Thursday night and shit out a 0-0. Absolutely not. We have to go there and prove to the world that this is as bad an Exeter team as we're being made out that it is. But it's not going to change unless we keep the ball out of the back of the net. That's just the first fundamental that we have to get right. But it doesn't help that the best centre-back in the football club isn't available until December. FYI, one of the 4 players that is unavailable to us still.
Just a reminder, Joe, this is a family-friendly show and we won't have language like that. Your friends on the forums will not be happy. But, though, Graham, 1 point from Wigan at home, Wigan, Peterborough and Wimbledon at home. That isn't good enough, no matter how you...
No, and it's no coincidence all 3 played very similarly with, and I hate the term low block, but we're singularly incapable of penetrating a team that sits back with 5. I mean, Wimbledon didn't start with 5 at the back, but they ended up with 5 at the back. But Peterborough and Wigan did. We don't get wide, as I think was said. Too many high balls. Meet and treat to Johnson. Thank you very much. We don't play balls into feet. We don't get wide. We don't get the wing backs tend to come in. I mean, but the only time we look dangerous is when we get wide and get behind. And Barley did that a couple of times. I don't think Joe got when he missed the chance or had the foul against him, was in a good position. But we're not getting balls wide. We're not getting crosses in. We never looked like scoring a goal like Wimbledon's first goal, which was a perfect way to demonstrate how you can press, win, cross, goal. And we're not doing that. The strange thing was Wimbledon started off playing a very high line, and that was partly responsible for the first goal. We got beyond it. How many balls were played behind Wimbledon's high line in the game? Hardly any. Nothing out wide. And that's the way to do it. And what worried me was Tom Cleverley's press conference, because he talked about how you beat the low block, as he called it. And he said you have to move the team side to side. We do Chuckle Brothers at the back, to me to you, to me to you. We don't move teams side to side. It's too predictable. It doesn't, and Mitchell, and he's a good player, good League One player for me. He was on the left side of the 3, and it just didn't suit him. Every time they had the ball at his feet, he's looking, what do I do? And we never got any constructive move from playing down the left-hand side from Mitchell. And similarly, Wiradoo pushed up quite a bit. But again, we never got wide balls in. We had crosses, but they were sort of diagonal rather than dangerous. And I say, I come back to Wimbledon's first goal. We don't do like that. And unless we address that, McCabe was too deep, and we conceded the midfield space to Wimbledon because he was too deep. We were a bit better with Boateng in the middle and Patterson out on the left. We looked more forward thinking, and Patterson put some decent balls in, made himself available, and I think he'll probably start, and I think Boateng will be central and McCabe will be on the bench. But I mean, I did ask James, how have teams beaten Wimbledon this season? Because not many have. I think they lost 2, is it 3? 2 or 3. How have they managed to beat that the way that you play?
I think it's primarily, I mean, I went to the Luton, I've only actually been to the one game prior to the weekend, which was Luton away on the opening Friday night. And it was, I mean, that was another one where I genuinely went there expecting a cricket score, with the size of Luton's budget this year, because they've still got parachutes, and knowing what ours is likely to be, probably a bottom 4 or 5 budget. But it didn't, again, I think we've come up, we got promoted based on a really, really strong back line, and we are, I think Johnny Jackson's built the squad to be defensively resolute, and it needs either a moment of individual brilliance or it's pace. I mean, pace kills defenders at every level. You know, we see it in the Premier League right the way down through to grassroots. So it's, you know, on Saturday, that through ball allows Tulai to get away, bang, 1-0. If you know, if I was setting a team up to try and play against Wimbledon, I would be probably trying to play centrally, but I'd be keeping it on the deck and looking to try and just, you know, I'd almost be looking to overload the central third of the pitch, try and pull one of those centre halves out of pace, because, you know, I don't even think we were playing our strongest 11 on Saturday. You know, Joe Lewis, Ryan Johnson, they've been a key part of the club over the last 12 months, in particular, and have started incredibly well this year. But I think if you pull them out of position, you know, Joe got pulled out, I think it was for Luton, it was for their goal. You know, just gets pulled out of position slightly, creates a huge gap, and they capitalise from it. So again, you know, I do think Argyle were missing a massive amount of width on Saturday. But I'm not sure, you know, even if you were to overload it and have, you know, the wing back, you know, going around the side of a winger, if you were playing a really unorthodox, like a 5-3, you know, almost that 5-4-1, 4-5-1 formation with wingers and wing backs, if you really wanted to go for it, I just don't think you're going to beat the way that we set up at the moment. We are just really strong at winning those aerial balls. So for me, yeah, play the through balls through the, you know, get them through the middle, try and hurt them with pace, and just get a centre half, pull them out of position. Like you said, it didn't help on Saturday, McCabe sitting so deep, because there's no one trying to force the issue in midfield, and you're just giving them acres of space to say, look, just tap it around a bit, and, you know, as long as if you're playing it out there in front of us, it's fine. And because if you're just going to lump it up, we're just going to keep banging it away for another 90 minutes. But yeah, I think the lack of, you know, I said it earlier on, the lack of pace, and I don't know if it was positivity, but, you know, it just felt so pedestrian. If you were to move the ball around a bit quicker, like we've seen Argyle sides do in the past, then, you know, you can hurt a team. That's how you'll hurt a team like Wimbledon. That's how you'll hurt a team like, you look at Wickham under Ainsworth, or another team that were brilliant at it. They're horrible to play against. But if you're wearing blue quartered shirts, you probably love watching it week in, week out. You've got to play. I think you've really got to play to the strengths, you know, that completely go anti what they're all about, and move them out of their positions, because they are just so well drilled and well organised. You know, if you let them sit where they've been practicing to sit all week, you're not going to break them down.
In fact, the only time we looked like scoring was when Tulai had the shot that was saved by Bishop. That actual move had fluency, pace, and precision. Yeah. And unfortunately, it wasn't the equaliser, and was ultimately a match-winning save. But that is the only way to do it, and that's the only time we did it.
Yeah, flipping that though, James. Were there any positives that you saw from this Argyle side on Saturday?
I mean, you know, probably echoing Joe's point a fair bit. I think the trouble is with the Argyle squad at the moment is it is such a squad in transition. There are definite. I mean, I thought in the first first half in particular, I thought Ibrahim made Reeves look bang average. I thought he absolutely, I thought he was bossing the midfield, and then suddenly we popped up and equalised. I think if you're looking at this clearly, I think Patterson brings a huge amount of experience to the side. I've always liked him as a player. I think he's got it, like, we said earlier on, I think I'd be surprised if he doesn't get the nod on Thursday. I felt in the summer that where we could be exposed, where Argyle could get exposed, would be a lack of depth at the back, in that only having two, I think it's only two recognised left footers in that back line. You're asking a lot if you're playing 3 or 4 at the back. You're asking a lot to go the season with both Galloway and McKenzie. Who, Galloway, I think on his, when he's match fit, is probably probably one of the best centre halves in the league. He can cover your left back, cover your left wing back. He gives you an awful lot there. But I'm always a fan of, if you're building a squad, you should always try and aim for two starters for every position to give you that genuine depth. And I don't think it's there. And I think that showed on, Mitchell. I watched him. I was sat quite near the front in the away end, and it's the closest I've been to watching him play, ever, I think. And he really, I thought in the first half, where he was, down towards us, he led that defensive unit, and I know we went into the break 1-1, but he didn't stop talking. I would have much rather seen him in the middle of the front three. The middle of the back three. I thought he did quite well up front when he moved up there for the last 10. But a player like that, he's got he screams Dan Scar, he screams Sonny Bradley. Sit him in the middle of a back three. Don't ask him to do what he's not good at. Just to win every header, knock it down, and let someone else play it through. I do think I think there's been, it's football, isn't it? It was kind of at 150 odd years of, results. Everyone gets too high after the highs and too low after the lows. I do think that, it's not necessarily a time to panic. I'm a huge believer in giving managers time. And there are periods where I've seen managers, not just at Argyle but across the football league, get the boot, and you question why they've done that. I think as I say, there are positives to come from that game. It doesn't feel it now, obviously, for anyone of a green persuasion. But there are some really exciting players that were playing, and crucially, as Joe's made the point several times tonight, so I won't labour it. There are quite a few that you would argue, the first 11 that are not available, and that presents a challenge in itself when budgets are what budgets are, and the league's been completely skewed by the spending power of Birmingham, Wrexham, to name 2 clubs last season. I think that's completely distorted the landscape in the league, and that will make it really challenging for a club like Argyle, who are trying to do it in what I believe is the right way. That does make it more difficult. But if you had the full squad available, then it could quite easily be a different game, because the gaffer's probably got a bit more of an opportunity to play, and to play the style that he really wants to play. Whatever that may be, because I'm not quite sure we've seen that yet, due to the depth of the injuries that have been, forced that the team's encountered since the opening game week.
Yeah, we'll get onto some of the recruitment discussion later when we move on to the Tom Randall section as well. Joe, like I said, didn't watch the game, seen the highlights, but a few people are telling me that we're due like an hour-long ref watch. Are we?
No, not actually, genuinely, not in my opinion. No. The first penalty appeal where Wiradoo's brought down the lad's slips. I don't know what Wiradoo expects him to do. That's just an unfortunate tangling of legs. The Edwards one, I've seen them given. He does. Edwards is very clever. He gets him. I'm not saying Edwards is trying to buy the foul. Edwards is trying to get on the ball that's squared back across, but he's very clever in his movement to get in front of the lad. And yeah, okay, Reeves takes his foot. As Graham says, the biggest thing of all this, if you're not going to give a penalty, you absolutely don't give a free kick to Wimbledon. I don't quite know where that came into it, but no, I've seen a lot of stuff made of the referee. people might agree. We've had a lot worse this season, and he wasn't the reason that we lost this game. And you might be surprised to know, Aaron, that I'm not interested in talking about referees at the moment. I just want to try and discuss how we can get this side winning games. So I've seen
really annoying because I spent 2 years trying to get you to shut up about referees. And now it's like
I've seen it given, and had it been given, I don't think anybody in the away end or in the opposition dugout would have complained if the referee had given the penalty against Joe Edwards, but or for Joe Edwards, sorry. But as for the rest of it, I just don't see there's much point, because there were much bigger issues for those in green shirts that we need to address.
I think the point, Joe, because of that decision, I mean, assuming we didn't have another Panenka, Toloi probably would have scored. 2-0 would have been a very different game. So, in actual fact, in that one decision, the referee, I won't say cost us the game, but that decision played a major part in how the game unfolded.
It's the usual thing though, Graham, isn't it? If Bianti had, everyone knows the rest of it, so it's all ifs and buts, and you just got to deal with it. We've been on the right end, the wrong end of some decisions this year. Some even themselves out, some don't. So as I say, there's more to worry about of what we're doing than decisions that are being taken out of our hands.
Yeah, and I think the reaction to the ref was part of the frustration of the fans with the way the team was playing as well. Because when we won against Stockport, the referee wasn't brilliant that game, but we never made an issue of it because we won. So there is that is part of it. But what I will say, the Lyndhurst linesman, assistant referee, can they get any worse? Seriously? So you might not have been on ref watch, but I was on assistant referee watch, and he was one of the worst.
If we get to a point where we're on assistant referee watch, I think I'd give up. Big fan of Darren Curtis, who's asked Joe to host. At least he saw the game. The problem with Joe hosting is that he doesn't pay attention to the pod and decides to watch the golf. So just a reminder, we are up for best club content creator in the Football League. Votes close soon. So give us a vote on there if you think our view of Argyle is worth an award.
And I won't be going, so I won't be able to pay attention to the award ceremony. So
no, you're right. If it was anything like last year, which we did do, I think we do a vlog. We did a vlog on. I'm hoping for better because it's somehow more expensive in the fact that it's at Ellen Road, and it's not even at Ellen Road. It's in a tent outside Ellen Road, which is brilliant, and it's further away and more expensive. So that's fun. Can't wait for that. Although we are going because. FOMO, I suppose, but there's still time to vote for us. And if you vote for us and we win, I think me and Joe might put in a little bit more effort into hosting, just a little bit, just like 5% more. That's a huge might, though.
I was going to say, is that 5% you attending games?
Yeah, I'll actually go to a game.
You go to a home game, and how about I'll go to an away game? That'll please.
All right, we'll do that. Deal. Where are we on? Is there anybody individually that you guys want to pick out? I suppose, James, the question really is there anyone in our squad that you look at and think you'd want them? But obviously the answer to that is Lawrence Alai. But
yeah, Toloi. I mean, to be fair, when the squads were, when I looked at the two first 11s on paper, I'd probably go through. Pre-game, I was going, I'd have him. I'd still maintain individually those Argyle players are on paper. They're not performing at the levels that they should be. And there were a lot of them. I'd have him. We touched on Bugles earlier on. His goal was a lovely centre forwards finish. But he's a lower league player. I think we were missing, Matty Stevens. I'm not quite sure how he'd have got on Saturday, to be fair.
So we were all delighted. Well, at least I was when I heard that he wasn't going to be playing, and I was like, brilliant. Took him straight out of my fantasy EFL team because I thought he's going to bag against that. Basically, any striker that plays against Argyle gets captained for my fantasy EFL team, and then I was let down, and I was delighted. I thought, oh, we might actually get something here, and then you did it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he stepped up. I mean, I thought he was going to get found out. And I know we're already, what, 2-3 months into the season. But I think he's on 5 or 6 goals, certainly 6 goal contributions. It might be 5 or 6 goals at the moment. Yeah, he's a player. I loved him in League, in League Two. He plays like a man possessed. He's you can tell he used to be a boxer because of the way, the whole way his body moves. But he went through a couple of dry patches. I thought, I genuinely felt we didn't have that firepower to get us over the line last year. And, I think the three playoff games exemplified that with 3 1-0 wins. So yeah, I mean, Matty's done brilliantly to have done as well as he's done. But even Ibrahim, I really rate. He was another one. I think the first few games it was a lot I was seeing on X of how it was just a license to print money because just bang on for him to pick up a yellow card. He's managed to cut that out of his game a bit. Boateng's probably been, for me, one of the most consistent players of the season. I remember, I think it was the Liverpool game. He made his debut off the bench, if I recall rightly. And I thought he looked a player then, and we didn't see a lot of him second half of last season. Whereas this year, again, I do think that the midfield McCabe is going to be a quality player. It's just not going to be doing it in an Argyle shirt, unfortunately. And that's, when you do the dance for the devil, that's what you're going to get. He will be seriously good when he's got a few more EFL appearances under his belt. And yeah,
it feels like another one of those like annoyingly good players that we're gonna develop and then just never see again because they're just gonna disappear. I suppose more recently the likes of Finn and Zaz, where you just see them be sold for £15 million, and you're like, oh, we're never gonna see players like that again. And then obviously Lord McCabe comes through, and from what I've seen of him, which is very limited, he looks excellent.
Although,
yeah,
I would caveat, Aaron, he's got the technical gifts of a typical England under-20 international. And
what's wrong with that? We had one of those last season that didn't do us
but he's perhaps not used to the aggressive physical tactics of a typical League One side, and he's got to adjust to that. And I mean, ironically, his best game, I think, for us was away at Burton, where he actually played further up the pitch, and we looked really good. And I just don't understand why he's virtually sitting in front on Ross's toes as the centre of the 3 at the back. I just don't get it. We were a far better attacking unit when Boateng was pushed forward, and we looked much better for 20-25 minutes. So yes, he's a good player, and I think he will excel in a good team around him. Bit like Adam Randall. Adam Randall has excelled at Bristol City because he's got better players around him, and I think that's probably the same for Lord McCabe.
I do wonder if we've ever managed to go a whole pod since he's departed without mentioning Adam Randall, which is excellent.
Well, I'll just check that in.
I'm glad he's
Lord McCabe is going to have a fantastic loan spell in the Championship with Portsmouth next year after Middlesbrough get promoted. That's the fact of it. This is a kid. James hits the nail on the head. And Aaron, I think you said it either last year or the year before about one of our loan players that somebody else will see the absolute best of him.
I think it was Jocko JB, to be honest. We are not quite happening at Hull, is it? Bless him.
We are a stepping stone, and his next move is where he will flourish totally. We'll see glimpses of it, of course we will. As Graham says, Burton, he was superb. But don't expect anything this season. Middlesbrough know they've got a hell of a player. England know there's a hell of a player in there. It's just we're not going to see the absolute pinnacle of him, and neither would you expect that at 19, 20 years of age. It's just not going to happen, is it? So it's frustrating, but that's the model that we are operating with, and it's great when you get the good ones at that age and they can flourish week in, week out, but it's just the way of the world.
Yeah, it's very rare that I agree with Gaza Brownhigh in the comments. and I only half agree with him here. He's saying that we needed an experienced centre mid, not Lorne McCabe, who was a kid. And actually, I feel like we discussed that plenty.
Can I just throw a name in for January?
Yeah, go on.
Sam Morsey is available.
Graham, I remember your comments on Sam Morsey, and that got us a lot of trouble with Ipswich fans. So I'm sure
I will resign from the Argyle Life podcast. If Sam
actually, let's get him in.
I just thought I'd toss it in for debate. That was all.
No, yeah, no.
Is Jay Fulton still a Swansea player? Is that rumor going to resurface before the January transfer window?
No, but he is the latest one in the wheel of rumors that seems to come up. Yeah, VW Coco says McCabe reminds me of Curtis Jones of Liverpool, and actually, yeah, that's a very good comparison. Actually, just slightly less scouse. Anybody else you want to mention before we move on? I don't think so.
Yeah, can I just return to Lauren Tolloy because
go on.
5 goals in 8 league games. That's some record. And I bang on about Huddersfield and their signing of strikers. They signed 3 strikers for £5 million since January. Taylor, the guy from Bolton, Charles and Alfie May. And they've played 64 games between them and have scored the same number of goals Lauren Tolloy has scored in 10. And that just gives you a bit of perspective of how good we know he's good. We know we've got him for this season because he can't be sold in January. But every championship club will be on his tail in the close season for sure.
I'm going to Mystic Meg. Lauren Tolloy is going to have a fantastic year for West Brom in the Championship next year.
Oh, he screams West Brom, doesn't he? Oh, that's a great.
He strikes me as a very Ryan Mason striker.
But he's going to go there and be a Devante Cole, where he just not on the fringes and never quite, and then he gets drops down back into League One.
Do you mean free agent Devante Cole, who was there on the precipice that seemingly was never spoken about Devante Cole?
Didn't he end up at Port Vale?
He did.
He did,
yeah.
But Lauren Tolloy certainly is, I mean, I can't recall an Argyle striker, centre forward, who fits the bill as much as him. There's just nobody that I can recall that comes close. And certainly, I can't. There's not one player. He's unlike any other player we've had.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to think he's going to go to Stoke, but I feel like he's got enough about him. The Port Vale connection is just, I know a lot of people on social seem to think he thinks there's a lot about him now that he's joined us and actually started posting on Instagram. But like, I feel like he's got enough morals to not go to Stoke. So yeah, West Brom is a great shout, Joe. Graham, we've got to discuss it. Joe's already had his say on it, and I'm going to come back to you, Graham, on how much of this is on Cleverly, because there's been quite a lot of talk on socials, and I'm sure there has been on Passotti. I don't know. I'm not a member. I barely watch games, never mind. Check Passotti. But a lot of people are starting to question Cleverly and say,
I think that's the inevitable. Yeah, it's the inevitable knee jerk after a bad result. Nobody was questioning after the Burton game, for example. So I think we as a club have underestimated what it takes to be successful in League One. And we've underestimated the need for experience and physicality to be tied with the investment in the young players that we've made. And it's no coincidence if you look that we actually, I think Mitchell and Tolloy, were they signed on the last day of the window? So that was
Mitchell wasn't, was he? Mitchell was in
lack of physicality. I mean, imagine if we didn't have Tolloy, crikey. I mean,
Mitchell was signed a few weeks before, Graham.
Sorry?
Mitchell was signed a few weeks before. He signed before the Leyton Orient game, wasn't he? That was his debut at home.
Was it? Oh, so it's fair. I know it's fairly late in the day, but
I mean, we went all those weeks. Dale might be the one you're thinking of.
We went all those weeks without signing anybody. I think 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and I think that's where the misjudgment perhaps Tom Cleverley thought, he's got a Man United pedigree, Championship pedigree. He thought he could impose that
We've had one of those
play on
before.
League One, and you can't. You will get results playing that way, but against tried and tested teams like we've played, the results have spoken for themselves. And so I think we've got to address it in January. Otherwise, mid-table is going to be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah. James, do you see a world in which we depart with Cleverley anytime soon, or is it more a case of like a bottom 3, bottom 4 at Christmas, and we're like we need to act before the window?
I think Simon and obviously Paul Byrne technically won't be in post until the window opens, but I think they run the risk if they do decide a change is needed. That's then 5 managers in 2 years, which is a hell of a lot of turnover. And within football, you've then got a reputation for being a firing club, which does then limit you if you want to carry on with the model of bringing in younger, developing managers, coaches, players, because I think one of the things that made Argyle so attractive as a potential employer for coaches would have been looking at the previous structure, and obviously Lowy went, Shuey stepped into the void, into the role, and managers always leave, don't they? They'll either go to a bigger club, unless you are and players are the same, unless you're a Real Madrid, there's always a bigger fish, and so obviously we had a great period where the managers were going off because they were probably getting a bit big, they were capable of going to, I hate saying it, but to bigger and to bigger clubs. Certainly, I won't say better, but definitely bigger. If I were in Paul and Simon's shoes, I'd probably I'd be obviously they're privy to a lot more data than we are, which I know will probably get a few eyebrows raised in the comment section. But they're far more aware of of what Tom's working with, what his team's been working with, and obviously of everything else that's been going on behind the scenes that supporters won't see, the conversations behind closed doors and whatnot. I think they'll stick with him. Again, I firmly believe that you've got to give managers time. You've got to give them time, no matter what level, to they need to assess those players in on the field of play. You can't replicate match conditions on a training ground, no matter how good you are. So you need to see what those players are actually like in action. You've got to implement. You've got to develop the strategy. Then you've got to implement the structure to deliver that strategy by actually getting the right players in, and then then the culture's got to come as well. And those are the 3 key bits that you cannot do those 3 things in what would it be, 5 months. It's very very challenging in any walk of life to do that, let alone in in the intense spotlight that is professional football.
Yeah, agreed. I wanted to keep this to an hour, and we're not far off already. We've got obviously Thursday to talk about, and 2 other big pieces of news, one departure and 1 arrival. So ideally make this short and sweet if we can. I don't know who wants to discuss the departing Tom Randall, but Argyle put out a statement in which read, Argyle can confirm that the head of recruitment, Tom Randall, will leave the club by mutual consent. Randall joined the club on a consultancy basis in March and then joined permanently in May, overseeing a busy summer transfer window that saw 18 players depart and 13 arrive, and then they just list his previous clubs. Argyle's head of football operations, which still baffles me that that's a thing, but David Fox commented saying, Tom worked incredibly hard over the summer as we underwent a period of transition, and I want to thank him for his efforts. As replacing the numbers we have done is not an easy task. However, with the evolving demands of the role, it is vital that we have a head of recruitment who is visible around the football club and will be ever present at the home park stadium and at matches. For personal reasons, Tom cannot commit to being in Plymouth more permanently, and therefore we have mutually decided to part ways. Randall added, I have thoroughly enjoyed my time working for Argyle. I'm proud of the work we achieved in the summer, creating a strong foundation for the club. I don't know who wants this, maybe Joe, or Graham seems keen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Yeah.
tough, right? Because it's personal reasons. We don't want to speculate on those, but
No.
like it feels like the best for both parties, really.
Absolutely. I mean, he was appointed as part of the Stuart Webber consultancy.
Who?
As somebody you know well, Aaron, and
No,
I think wasn't
don't say that out loud, Graham.
wasn't
We've always
he even
alluded to it.
connected?
We never said it.
Wasn't he even connected to an East Anglian club at some time as well in the past?
Anyway, moving on.
And so it was his appointment. I don't believe. I think David Fox only met him a couple of times. He said in an interview, which does seem rather strange in terms of putting a coherent recruitment team together. And the comments that David's made are quite pertinent in and around home park, etc., etc. So yeah, inevitable, I think. Hopefully we can get somebody in who knows the lower leagues well, because I think that's going to be an important part of our recruitment. So yeah, good. Best of luck to Tom in whatever he does. I mean, in fairness, I don't know what role he played in Talai or Ibrahim, or but he must have played some role. So if he did play a part in those two recruitment, then well done him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, it's hard to speculate due to the personal circumstances. But like you said, obviously, wish him the best, and I just feel like it's best for both parties. But Joe, Plymouth Argyle have added a goalkeeping coach who actually wants to be paid his monthly wage, which is good. They've added Mike Stowell to Tom Cleverley's coaching staff. The former Leicester City caretaker manager has joined the Pilgrims as goalkeeper coach. Stowell, 30, coached the Foxes goalkeepers during their historic Premier League title-winning campaign in 2015-16 under Claudio Ranieri. Can we see similar miracles at Argyle?
Dilly ding, dilly dong. No, it's obviously an appointment that was important. It was one they had to get right. He's got a fair bit of experience. He gave good interview. Suppose with a goalkeeping coach, proof of the pudding's in the performances of Ashby Hammond and Connor Hazard, isn't it? You know, it's a very niche coaching role, and until we see improvement from the keepers and keeping clean sheets, then how do you judge a goalkeeping coach? So
it's not started well, has it?
No, Connor didn't look exactly comfortable every time the ball was coming in the box on Saturday, did he?
I blame
you know, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. Good to be able to attract somebody of his caliber in the game, obviously with the experience he's got, as you say, being a Premier League winning goalkeeping coach for whatever that's worth. So yeah, good to have him on board, and I think it'll be a bigger help to Ashby Hammond than it will Hazard, obviously, because Connor's an international goalkeeper, and all being well, looking at how things are progressing, he might be a World Cup goalkeeper next summer. So yeah, let's see how he improves Ashby Hammond, who I would imagine will get a run out in a couple of weeks in the FA Cup. But I say it's time will tell, and welcome aboard. I'm not sure what other comment I have to make about a goalkeeping coach being appointed.
No, but I feel like that's stuff that you get really excited about. So I thought I'd come to you on that one. Superintendent in the chat says Stowell is pronounced like towel, which is really useful for me because I'm really bad at pronunciation. So that's good, and I will still call him Stowell going forward. And he will get used to that. And Philip Bayliss, I haven't fact checked this. He said that Ben Foster stated that John Stowell, a former goalkeeping coach, was instrumental in his development, making him a better goalkeeper. So that's good. Like I said, haven't fact checked that, but I don't fact check things I actually say anyway. So let's just hope that's correct. Moving on to Thursday, we have Exeter City away. James, initial thoughts on the big one?
Well, how many cliches do you want to throw at it? You know, it's the form goes out the window in the form goes out the window in a derby. Two poor teams at the moment. Neither are doing well. I'd like to say it'll be a resounding away win. But I haven't, that's purely going on gut. I've not watched Exeter play this season for obvious reasons. Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. I think it is a good opportunity to get back to again, it's for another cliche, and to get back to winning ways because if the players can't get up for that game, then what can they get up for? And I think that's where having the Joe in particular. I don't think he had a great game on Saturday, but just having him in that dressing room, people like him, Nance, mentioned him a lot already, Patterson. They understand the importance of these fixtures, and they'll be key in getting those younger players really fired up for it, I think.
Yeah, I think, Graham, I don't know why, but I'm never normally that nervous about Devon derby games, because I've always seen Exeter as like the little club in Devon that we just pat on the head and it's like, okay, yeah, all right. Like, you finished above us when we were at our lowest ebb, but like, congratulations, whatever. Like, you're not really a threat to us. But when it comes to Thursday, I'm really nervous to the point where I might not even go. I won't go. I haven't got a ticket. But I'll be watching on Sky Sports, which will make Friday's pod slightly more interesting, I hope. But like, I don't know about you, but I'm really nervous about Thursday night. I feel like that this could be a game in which they actually turn us over. Well,
I mean, they're in fairly wretched form. I think they've only won one of their last 6.
They are above us, though.
Yeah, on goal difference. Although, I mean, ironically, if we win on Thursday, I think we go up to 15th. So, it's quite compressed in the, mid-table.
Heavy heights.
Yeah, heavy heights of mid-table mediocrity. But one thing's for sure, it won't be a Ryan Lowe type approach to the game, where he said it was just another game. And that 4-0 remains one of the most humiliating experiences any Argyle fan has had.
I'd actually forgotten about that, like completely wiped out.
Yeah, but what I would really like, if we remember our last victory, when I think it's fairly close after the Papa John's debacle at Wembley, we went there. I think it was a Sky game again. That might be lunchtime kickoff. And Matt Butcher scored a fluky, deflected goal.
In off Will Aimson. Thank you.
Sorry?
In off Will Aimson.
Oh, was it? Right, yeah. And I would take that all day long on Thursday night. Any victory, any method, anyhow. Another off the backside of Ibrahim a la Luton. Any goal like that. In a way, perverse way, I would quite like it to be that way, because that would be quite nice, wouldn't it? Really, but I'm edgy. I have to say, I'm edgy, and I don't know why I'm edgy. On paper, we should be the winners. What I really love is Lauren Tolloy to make a statement nationwide on that night, and then we can live in the glory of that. But you guys, we'll come back to the predictions, but I share your nerves, I must admit.
Yeah, like I said, I completely forgot about that 4-0. So, yeah, maybe I have been nervous before and I just completely blocked it out. But who knows? Joe, you like talking about goalkeeper coaches. Will Mike Stoll help in net? Do you think like Luca Ashby-Hammond might be recalled due to Hazard's recent form, or do you think they stick?
Nope, Connor Hazard. You stick with your best possible fit 11, whatever that might be at the moment. Just on the game on Thursday night, it is 2 absolutely honking sides right now. Let's just get the bare facts of it out. However, it is away from home, therefore it gives us an advantage. Who thought we'd be saying that? Because one thing they are doing away from home, just putting more meat on the bones of what I said earlier, when we go away, they're almost puffing their chests out. They're showing everybody their personality, their character. They're imposing themselves on games, and it's something they're not doing at home. Now, there's no better stage to win the trust of everybody for the months ahead than to do that on Thursday night. And as Graham and James allude to, it doesn't matter how it comes. It doesn't matter whether it's a free-flowing, proper Brazil style performance where we just tear them limb from limb, knife through butter, or whether it's off someone's backside from a set piece after 14 ricochets. I don't care if we have 10% of the ball and only one shot on goal. I really don't. However, I am going to be the most miserable person in the world. My only objective would be on Thursday, do not lose that game. Do not lose that game. If you have to take a point, then so be it. Run out of there. Literally, if you have to leave your coat behind, leave your coat behind. Just take the point and get out of that hellhole, because it has been a torrid place for Argyle in recent years. We had that one amazing lunchtime 2 years ago, or well, 2 and a bit years ago, that offered us the most amazing feeling. But that aside, it has been a torrid place for Argyle to visit. And there are 2 people in all of this who are going to be absolutely instrumental on Thursday night. And they're the 2 obvious people. Joe Edwards, because he's going to have to keep a lid on everything, including his own fight, because he is in line to make appearance 250 for this football club if he's selected.
The AFC Displays are still fundraising for, by the way. So if he gets up again, a bit bigger period to fundraise in.
Well, they're going to have to wait. They're going to have to wait a long time to get that banner out, aren't they? But yeah, he's in line for career appearance 250, and there is it's a fantastic place to get it in the derby. He's going to be massive.
Is that 250? He's on
it's 250 if he plays on Thursday. It's 250. And the other person, obviously, and I expect Tom Cleverley is going to lean on him heavily in the coming days, is Nance. I fully expect like a Braveheart style speech will be given in the dressing room before the game. That will, if none of them can get up for this game, then there will be serious questions asked about their temperament to play for this football club, because right now the football club needs them to give absolutely everything. It needs them to leave everything out there on Thursday night and get a result for the club. And if they're not prepared to put everything into Thursday night, then there is a real issue with their temperament moving forward. Not trying to put too much pressure on it, but that's just the facts of it.
I think for me, going back to what Graham said about how Ryan Lowe, treated it like any other game, I think the way we played up at Luton tells me enough about Tom Cleverley that he's going to get them up for this. Like he got them he got them up for that game in Luton because he was the former Watford manager, and obviously Watford means a lot to him.
And they were able to come back from having their captain and their manager sent off. Like, could you have asked for 2 worse things to go against your side than that? And they still managed to find a way, albeit insanely lucky, but they managed to find a way to win the game. So,
I agree. The manager could have kept his mouth not get sent off, but sure.
Well, yeah, there's that. That last 10 minutes of that Luton game, that defending, that bodies on the line, that will to win, get over the line. That's what we're going to need for the whole 90 minutes on Thursday night.
James, I only have internal experience of the Big Farm derby, but internally at the club, how will they be feeling right now? Because obviously this is a big one, a close one, with both incredibly bad runs of form. Goal difference separates us in the league. How tense is it going to be at Home Park?
There'll be. It's hard to say because obviously different managers have. I'm trying to say this, but the different managers have different ways of doing it. So, I look back at some of the gaffers that were there when I was working at the club, and Derek. Derek was one who you knew how he knew. You knew that he knew how much it meant to the supporters. He made that abundantly clear in and around the offices. I think everyone behind the scenes, there's a lot of very talented and skilled people working at Home Park in various disciplines. The majority of them support the football club. There are obviously those that don't. There's people there that aren't even necessarily football fans, but they're just
So
very
we
skilled at what
have
they do.
previously hired the likes of like Wimbledon fans, haven't we? So
Well, someone's got to do it. But everyone there will be, I think make no bones about it. Everyone there will be, wanting to make their point of difference. And if they can do anything that, it makes them feel, like they can contribute towards that success, I suppose. But yeah, knowing the guys, in the senior leadership team the way I do, they will be, they will certainly be chomping at the bit to right a few wrongs. And yeah, I think no one there is going to be taking a laissez-faire attitude towards it. I don't think anyone at the club is going to be saying it's just another game. Other than possibly by saying at the end of it, you can still only win the same number of points that you can if you're playing, Tin Pot Club from up the road, or former FA Cup winners at the weekend just gone. It's still only 3 points at the end of the day. So, but yeah, they'll be well and truly up for it. Of that, I'm sure.
So calling Wimbledon a Tin Pot Club from up the road's a bit harsh, but I'll let you off. Yeah. What happens? Obviously, it's a bit preemptive question from David Searle, who says, "What happens if we go there and get pumped? Is that just like a complete demoralizer?
I think there will be a social media meltdown."
Yeah.
And the word toxic will appear several times. And then we got 5 away games. And it's going to be such a strange feeling that you can't vent your frustration on the team. We're going to be massively disconnected if we lose, and we can't let the team know how the fans feel. I can't even contemplate a defeat.
Yeah.
It won't be good news. It will heap pressure on Tom Cleverley. It won't change anything because, as has been said, the Simon and Paul will back Tom Cleverley certainly to the end of the season. I'm absolutely sure, and beyond. They're not. They're not what's the Forest owner's name? I can't remember his name, but he won't be leaving after 67 minutes and waiting for him in the tunnel or anything like that. So
I'd love to see Simon do that. That'd be great.
No, I don't. As I say, I can't contemplate a defeat. I just can't contemplate it for a moment. And we have to do everything to avoid a defeat. If we can get a win, then I'll rejoice famously over the weekend.
Yeah. As you say, it'll be a very long weekend and a very happy one, right? But a defeat on Thursday night is a very painfully depressing weekend if we lose. Really quickly then, Joe, Lee Newson says, "What's Dale got to do with a shout? Loads of experience." And Philip Bayliss says, "Patterson and Dale to start for me. McCabe can sit this one out." How are you lining up? Are there any major changes you're making?
We don't have an abundance of options, really. McCabe probably sits this one out for me for Patterson. Or the flip side is you play Patterson instead of Asani and you give McCabe another go. I'm not quite sure this is...
But just push him slightly further forward, right?
Yeah. And this isn't, I obviously can't profess to know McCabe's character or anything or how he is, but I'm not necessarily sure this might be the type of environment he'll flourish, and we'll see that first real sign of how good a player he is, but I'm not necessarily confident it will be the right game for him. Patterson, we need as many experienced, cool heads on the pitch as we can. But the most important thing for me is, James alluded to it much earlier on in tonight's show, get back to playing the back three in their right positions. Mitchell in the middle, Ross on the right, Wiredu on the left. Why on earth is that suddenly... Why is Wiredu now suddenly playing on the right? Why is that suddenly changed around? Just get them back to where they are. Mitchell has to be in the centre. Because we saw on Saturday the perfect example why Ross shouldn't be in the centre. I like him as a player. I like what I've seen of him, but he just should not be in the centre of a three. So get Mitchell in the middle, then you've got your spine then, haven't you? You've got Hazard in goal, you've got Mitchell in the middle, you've got Boateng / Ibrahim in the centre of midfield, and you've got Talai up front. You've got an identity about the team then, but other than that, there aren't a huge amount of changes we can make. Possibly you would look at Sorinola and Edwards both starting, but Sorinola on the left does give me the heebie-jeebies. So, and Barley Mumba's got some good form in the derby. So, it's the sort of game that will get him going. All it takes is him to knock one in from 35 yards out again, and Barley's got a smile on his face, and that's all everybody needs to see.
That's all it takes, is it? An incredible one.
That's all it takes. Football's an easy game.
Yeah. Just put the ball in the back of the net. You're right, Joe. So easy. Hopefully, we do that a few times on Thursday. I'll just go round and ask for predictions. But David Searle says that we always have random goal scorers at Exeter. So I want your predictions and a completely random goal scorer. I'll let you go first, James.
I'm a hopeless football romantic, so I'm going to go for 1-0 away and Joe Edwards to be the goal scorer.
Nice.
So to his 250th cap in style.
Nice. Graham?
Barley 1-0.
Joe?
I'll cry, I think, if James's prediction comes true. I think seeing Joe Edwards score, particularly in front of that away end, I think that would be poetic.
No, he'll do it in front of the big bank.
Yeah, that would be even better.
Even better, yeah.
1-1, KG, horrible affair, one of the worst games Sky will show all season, but there'll be 2 bits of quality, and that will be the 2 goals. As for a goal scorer, Matthias Ross from a set piece.
Good. I'm glad you didn't steal mine. I'm going, no matter how bad we are, I can never predict a defeat or a draw to Exeter City. I'm going 2-0 Tegan Finn to get his first. There you go. There's my random. Is it his first? Well, if you don't count
First league goal.
Yeah, Tottenham's ones don't really count, do it? But yeah, Tegan Finn to get his first league goal in front of the big bank. Yes, please. I'll take that. I think that's everything, unless you guys have got anything else you want to add. But huge thanks, James, for joining us and giving us a.
Oh,
go on, Joe.
Congratulations to the women's team.
Yeah,
What that was.
Oh my God! Sorry. Yes, I keep meaning to mention them. 3-0 win against Watford, who I saw smash us 8-0 not that long ago up at King's Langley when I lived in London, and God, we were terrible that day. And they genuinely could have beaten us 15-16-0. They just took the foot off the gas and brought on loads of youngsters and you know, just respectfully did the polite thing and not smashing us. And an 8-0 win was sufficient. And my God, how we've turned it around in recent years. So the investment in the women's team is going really well. We do have a new partnership with the Women's Supporters Club over on Instagram, and they are providing us with content on Argyle.life. And we're going to up our women's coverage. But thanks, Joe, for reminding me, because that's something that I've been championing. Yeah, words always good as a podcast host. And yeah, we are, David Searle. We are doing a pod on Friday, I think.
You and Sam are, at least.
Me and Sam. So we've got at least 2 of us. We'll see how they get. Let's be honest. We'll see how the result goes. Because if we get thumped, no.
You might need a couple of days to get over it.
I might do a Twitter space instead at full time, because I can be sweary on those. I don't get told off. Yeah. As I was saying, thank you, James, for joining us first. Opponent view on a review, but also a very Argyle tinted one as well, which is unique. You'll have to let us know who else at the club supports different teams in League One, so we can get them on throughout the season. But yeah, as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky. Follow us on Blue Sky. Interaction on Blue Sky is very low. Go and give us some likes, give us some reactions, some replies. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and find us on all your major podcast platforms. And before you do that, remember to vote for us. Best club content creator in the Football League at the Football Content Awards. Don't make us travel all the way to Leeds. and home via Port Vale for nothing, which we will be anyway. But, you know, vote. It might help. It might. Please. Cheers, guys.